You'll find out why the wealthy can't afford to be jealous, how to use money to gain your freedom, and why a quiet mind is a happy mind in this synopsis of the book The Almanack of Naval Ravikant by Jorgenson. The Almanack of Naval Ravikant was written by Jorgenson. Introduction. What are the benefits to me? Discover the secrets to opening the doors to both material and spiritual wealth. It is a cliché that has been around since ancient times to say that wisdom and practicality are incompatible with one another. According to a joke that originated in ancient Greece, a philosopher is someone who gets stuck at the bottom of a well while looking at the stars. Despite the fact that it describes something that each of us has noticed, it is not necessarily true, just like many other clichés. That is demonstrated by Naval Ravikant's very existence. His understanding of the practical aspects of running a business and investing successfully has led to his success as an entrepreneur and investor. But in addition to that, he is a philosopher who is committed to finding the key to a happy and fulfilled life. In these synopses, we will investigate his sage advice as we delve deeper into two subjects that concern all of us equally: wealth and contentment. You will pick up the following from reading these synopses: why people with money can't afford to be jealous, how to use money to buy freedom, and how to make money work for you. Why mental tranquility is the key to mental happiness. Concept Fundamental 1. If you're unsure about a decision, then the answer is no. If you can't make up your mind about something, the correct response is no. On this planet, there are currently 7 billion people. Because of the internet, getting to know people from all over the world is now simpler than it has ever been. That's a lot of people who could become your friends, partners in business, or even life partners. Work has also evolved as a result of the rise of digital technology. There are thousands of jobs available today that are accessible to pretty much anyone who has access to the internet. In a nutshell, the modern world is replete with choices, which means that there are an innumerable number of responses to questions such as who you ought to marry, where you ought to live, and what line of work you ought to pursue. So how exactly do you go about making the right judgment calls? When it comes to making significant choices, having a solid set of guiding principles to fall back on is helpful. The most important takeaway from this is that you should not go forward with a choice if you have any doubts about it. The human brain was not designed to function effectively in settings with a large number of choices. You can thank the process of evolution. Our ancestors evolved in small tribes, and the scarcity that characterized their lives shaped how they lived. Finding a partner, for example, was not a question of love or having similar values. Rather, it was a question of whether or not there was availability. Working was something that had to be done as a matter of necessity. Finding enough food to keep you and your kind alive for another day was your job, and you had to do it. This evolutionary legacy has left the world in a precarious position today. When it comes to making significant choices, it's easy to get stuck in a rut for a considerable amount of time. Beginning a romantic partnership could result in a commitment to a venture that lasts for at least 5 years. The decision to take a certain job in a new location and uproot your life can completely change the trajectory of your professional life. If you make the wrong calls, you will end up wasting a significant amount of time. In other words, the decisions that you make at this stage will have an effect on the future, and it is imperative that you make the right choice. Because of this, it is beneficial to use a straightforward heuristic, which is a rule of thumb that assists in making sense of a problem. According to this heuristic, the correct response is never yes if you have any doubts about it. Because it is impossible to see into the future, it is impossible to know for certain whether or not, for example, agreeing to marry someone or purchasing a particular house is the best course of action. The important thing is to put faith in your reservations. If you find yourself staring at a spreadsheet with pro and con columns or creating elaborate checks and balances, then you already know the answer to your question: no. It's not a complicated guideline, but it gets the job done very well. The best part is that it may spare you years of toil and disappointment. Idea Central 2. A good reputation is an asset that is hard to put a price on. Let's say you make an investment of $10,000 at a rate of interest of 10%. Simply put, simple interest is straightforward. You can expect to receive $1,000 in annual income so long as you continue to have your money invested. Another option is something called compound interest. All that is meant by this is to reinvest any interest that has been earned at the same rate as the initial sum. 1,000 is equal to 10% of 10,000. 100 is equal to 10% of 1,000. You will end up with $12,100 rather than $12,000 after 2 years have passed. The amount of money that can be made through compound interest grows at an ever-increasing rate. If you invest $10,000 annually at a rate of 10% for 30 years, you will end up with $174,494 in total. In contrast, simple interest will bring you to the sum of $40,000. The key to success in compounding is to focus on the long term. You can also learn something from that you can apply to your relationships. The takeaway here is that having a solid reputation is an extremely valuable asset. Compounding can be done with more than just one's financial assets. Consider some of the most powerful individuals in the world of business, such as the chief executive officers of major multinational corporations or the investors who are responsible for the management of billions of dollars on behalf of their clients. What are their motivations for holding these positions? Even though they are talented and put in a lot of effort, that does not explain why a lot of other people who are just as intelligent and committed do not have these jobs. The truth of the matter is that one can have faith in them. The compound effect of the relationships they've developed and the effort they've put in over the years is the simple explanation for why they can be trusted. They have maintained their work and exhibited a high level of integrity over the course of many years. That is what a reputation is, the interest you earn from compounding over a period of time when you invest in defining what you stand for. Consider how something like this operates on an individual scale. If you have a positive working relationship with someone for a period of 5 or 10 years, you will eventually come to trust that person. That makes things simpler overall. When this happens, every negotiation that helps define the business world becomes much easier. When two parties trust one another, it's likely that everything will turn out okay. If you want to see a significant return on your investment in your reputation, you need to give careful consideration to how you establish it. Keep in mind that you will be making significant investments over the course of decades. Therefore, it is extremely important to make a swift exit when you realize that your investment isn't leading anywhere. It is advisable to withdraw from a course if, while taking it, you come to the realization that the information it contains will never be put to use by you, for instance. It's not worth the effort or the time you put into it. Most importantly, it indicates that you are passing up the opportunity to discover investments that will be truly valuable over the long term. Essential Key 3. If you secretly despise wealth, it will elude you. If you have a deep-seated contempt for wealth, you will never be able to amass it. There is more to the topic of finance than just capital, markets, and investments. It also involves psychology. Take envy. The relative mindset manifests itself when a person constantly compares themselves to other people and feels envious of the successes of others. That is the perfect recipe for unhappiness. It also acts as a barrier to the accumulation of wealth. If you want to improve your financial situation, you are going to have to collaborate with those who are already successful. We have an innate ability as humans to pick up on what other people's honest opinions are about us. It is obvious to others when you are harboring resentment or envy. That is not a solid basis on which to construct the relationships that are necessary to achieve financial success. The most important takeaway is that if you secretly despise wealth, you will never be able to obtain it. Two different social games are played by all of us. The first one is the game with the money. Even though money can't buy happiness or make all of your problems go away, it can help you solve the problems you have with money. That alone justifies your participation in the game. At the same time, many people have the impression that they are unable to earn money. They take aim at the process of wealth creation rather than addressing the psychological barrier that is holding them back. They say that money is the root of all evil, and that we shouldn't strive to acquire it. In the second type of game, which is the status game, this is a common move to make. People can elevate their status in the eyes of others by asserting that money is an unnecessary commodity that neither satisfies their needs nor satisfies their desires. The concept of relative mindsets has been at the core of the status game for as long as humanity has existed. Comparing individuals and organizing them into a hierarchy is the goal of this activity, specifically, determining who comes in first, who comes in second, and so on. Because of this, it's a game of no gain and no loss. For one person to emerge victorious, another must fall short. The only way for number 2 to advance in the hierarchy is for number 1 to vacate the position they currently hold. This game does have some applications in real life. Consider politics. If we didn't play it, we wouldn't be able to figure out who was in charge of everything until it was too late. However, at its core, it is nothing more than an undesirable but necessary consequence. Because of this, you ought to do everything in your power to steer clear of it in your life. If you do it too often, it will turn you into a hostile, combative, and resentful individual who is dedicated to putting other people down. The game of money is played differently. It is not a zero-sum game, rather, it is a positive-sum game. You can be successful without causing someone else to fail, and you can achieve financial success without dooming someone else to financial hardship. This is the cornerstone upon which prosperous professional relationships are constructed. They bring together individuals who share a common understanding that when it comes to the game of money, there really is no loser and no winner. Concept Fundamental 4. Having more money can give you more freedom, but only if you don't love money for money's own sake. There are a great many things that cannot be purchased with monetary value. To begin, it will not lead to happiness for you. Neither will it help you improve your health or find the person who is meant to be your soulmate. It won't bring you inner peace, and it won't get you in shape, either. Freedom is what it has the potential to bestow upon you. Money can solve a lot of problems, both internal and external. It frees you from the constraints that prevent you from pursuing the activities that are most important to you. Consider the Buddha, who was actually a prince in his previous life. It all started with wealth. Later on, he made good use of the independence that it provided him by withdrawing into the wilderness where he would sit in silence and contemplate the meaning of life. To put it another way, money is just a means to an end. Its true value lies in something else. When this reality is overlooked, it transforms into a factor that restricts one's freedom. The most important thing to take away from this is that money can buy you freedom, but only if you don't love money for its own sake. It's not true that money is the root of all evil. In point of fact, it's not either good or bad, it just depends on how you use it. Everything is determined by the objective that you are working toward. The goal of some individuals is merely to accumulate more wealth. They want money for the sake of having money. In the most extreme cases, this is nothing more than a desire to amass wealth. That is very detrimental to you, not in the sense that it makes you a bad person, but rather in the sense that it is detrimental to your health and well-being as a practical matter. In this regard, it is comparable to a wide variety of addictions. It's a bottomless pit if you love money, and there's never enough of it if you do. After all, desire isn't logical, and it doesn't go away once you get to a certain point in your life or achieve a certain level of success. When you're in this state, thoughts of money never leave your head, it's all you can think about, and it influences every choice you make. You are dissatisfied with what you are producing and terrified of the prospect of losing what you have already produced. This never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction and paranoia is the consequence of loving money, and it comes along with the money itself. This is the punishment for loving money. This is a poor strategy to employ when playing the money game. Keep in mind that you are not participating in this activity for its own sake, rather, you are attempting to find solutions to practical issues. You can motivate yourself to keep working toward this goal by preventing yourself from making improvements to your lifestyle as your income increases. Your ability to maintain a stable level of spending at a level that is reasonable contributes to your level of financial freedom. In contrast, constantly upgrading results in the creation of new problems, the resolution of which can only be achieved by increasing one's speed while remaining on the same treadmill. Essential Concept 5. Happiness is a choice to remain in the present moment. The decision to live in the here and now is one that must be made if one wishes to experience happiness. What does it mean to be happy? The ancient religious traditions of Asia, such as Taoism and Buddhism, provide one possible response to this age-old question. These traditions assert that human beings are responsible for both their happiness and their unhappiness. The objective world, which exists independent of our thoughts, is impartial. Since the beginning of the universe, nature has always operated according to an unbroken chain of laws that govern cause and effect. When viewed from the point of view of a tree, there is no such thing as right or wrong, or even good or bad. A life is nothing more than a fleeting experience of sensations such as light, temperature, and sound that is framed on either side by an infinite void. Happiness, according to Taoist and Buddhist thought, is just one possible way of reacting to a neutral world because, if judgment is only in the human mind, there can be no such thing as happiness. To put it another way, we have the option to choose happiness. The takeaway here is that happiness is a choice that can be made by remaining in the here and now. We frequently conflate being happy with having positive thoughts and acting positively. Different perspectives on this topic are held by Taoists and Buddhists. Take for example the Tao Te Ching. This philosophical and religious text is said to have been written by the Chinese sage Lao Jia in the 6th century BCE. It has had a significant impact on both the Taoist and Buddhist traditions. According to this school of thought, the germ of an opposing negative thought can be found within every positive thought and judgment. For instance, to claim that you are happy implies that you have experienced unhappiness in the past. When evaluating the attractiveness of one person, it is necessary to consider the unattractiveness of another. In a similar vein, having a pessimistic outlook on the gloomy weather we've been having today hints at the likelihood of brighter skies tomorrow. The absence of such judgments, which are associated with the absence of desire, is understood to be happiness according to these traditions. Your capacity to accept the present state of affairs will increase in proportion to the diminishment of your desires. This brings about a calmness within. Your mind is content to stay put in the here and now rather than wandering into the past or into the future. Instead, it focuses entirely on the present. The more you can learn to enjoy what's happening right now, the happier you'll be. Even a positive judgment such as "oh, I'm happy" has the potential to disrupt this state of calm. Suddenly, you find yourself considering the future and how you can maintain the happiness you currently feel. That gives rise to a desire, specifically the desire to make the provisional more permanent. Your thoughts have started to move again. You are no longer participating in the discussion. To choose happiness is to choose to be fully present in the moment. It is not necessary to be a monk in order to live in such a manner. Just consider toddlers and preschoolers. They appear to be content most of the time. Why? Easy. They are not caught up in their own thoughts, rather, they are fully present in the moment. As adults, we would be wise to keep in mind the lessons we've learned here. The sixth essential notion. A quiet mind is a happy mind. Is that a happy mind is a quiet mind? What does happiness look like? According to the ideas of Blaise Pascal, a French philosopher who lived in the 17th century, this state can be achieved by remaining still and quiet inside of a room by oneself. According to him, the reasons why our species has so many problems stem from the fact that we struggle to do that. Buddhists hold the same point of view. The secret to happiness is to do nothing for half an hour. The fact that we are easily sidetracked by our hankerings is the primary factor in the difficulty of accomplishing this goal. We tend to believe that happiness can be found out there in the wider world. When we get that new car, when we earn more money, or when we find our true love, then it will come. These yearnings, on the other hand, are nothing more than agreements we have made with ourselves to suffer unhappiness until we achieve our goals. Why do we agree to terms that are so ridiculous? You can blame it on your chaotic mind. The most important takeaway is that a peaceful mind is a happy mind. The Buddha was quoted as saying that thoughts are analogous to branches, and that the conscious mind is analogous to a monkey swinging from one branch to the next. This monkey is restless and can't keep still. Should I ask my wife if she wants a divorce? I don't know why I'm eating this candy bar. I was determined to get rid of this weight. Am I saving enough for retirement? I apologize if I offended my coworker. To what end? In any case, he is impolite to me all the time. A pay increase is one thing that would make me very happy. Perhaps it's time for me to start looking for work elsewhere. The monkey mind is capable of traversing tens of thousands of these branches throughout the course of a single day. Some thoughts are assessments of the situation. The other ones are like movies that are playing out events that took place yesterday or 10 years ago. Many people daydream about a time in the future when all of their needs and wants will have been gratified. This mental activity does serve a purpose, however, for example, it is how we come up with solutions to problems and formulate long-term plans. Happiness is not something that can be achieved through its use. When the monkey is howling from the treetops, it is difficult for us to concentrate on what is happening in the here and now. We are unable to be heard over the din. We're overworked, frazzled, and stressed out right now. The most important thing is that we are miserable. The solution to this issue is to instruct the monkey in the proper behavior. In a nutshell, this is what meditation is all about, silencing the chattering in our heads that keeps us from being present in the here and now. There are many different ways to practice meditation. Pascal suggested that you go into a room by yourself and sit quietly for some time, or you could study the rituals that monks observe in their daily lives. But you can also go hiking. You can call it walking meditation if you like. Keeping a journal is similar to practicing the meditation technique of writing, much like how prayer is a form of gratitude meditation. Even something as simple as taking a shower can turn into an unintentional form of meditation. You are making progress toward happiness so long as it allows you to reduce the amount of your monkey's chatter that you are experiencing. Principle number 7. Discovering what calms your mind and building good habits are keys to happiness. Finding what helps you relax mentally and developing positive patterns of behavior are two important steps toward achieving happiness. Happiness is not an innate trait, rather, it is a learned skill. It's something you have to put into practice in order to learn, just like proper nutrition, working out, or making money. And the more you practice, the more proficient you'll become. After all, we all know that practice makes perfect. However, where exactly should you begin? To put it simply, everywhere. The best way to improve a skill is to practice it and learn from your mistakes. You need to figure out what approaches are successful and which ones are not. In order to accomplish that, you will need to experiment with a wide variety of approaches. The most important takeaway from this is that the secret to happiness is to figure out what helps you relax mentally and then incorporate that into your daily routine. When you learn to still the chatter in your head and direct your attention to the world around you, you'll find that happiness follows. That should be the target. On the other hand, no two people arrive there via the same route. Determine first and foremost what it is that is successful for you in this context. Is it easier to achieve calmness through Vipassana meditation, or does Tantra meditation help you feel more at ease? Do you require a 10-day vacation or just 10 minutes first thing in the morning? There is only one way to find out, and that is to try both of them. Some people find that yoga is the most effective method. Kite surfing and mountain biking are two activities that a number of people enjoy. Perhaps cooking makes you zen? No? Change up your approach. Keeping a journal to practicing Tai Chi are just two of the many activities that can help you reach your objective. The process of learning through trial and error calls for the right frame of mind. There is a good chance that you will come across concepts that are in direct opposition to the way you see the world functioning. That's fine, as long as you don't let your healthy skepticism morph into a blind incredulity about certain things. It is important to keep in mind that, provided you believe they will, placebos can be effective. Take it from Naval Ravikant. A while ago, he finished reading The Power of Now, a book written by Eckhart Tolle that is all about becoming more present in the here and now. Lying down and focusing on how the energy flows around your body is the first step in the body energy exercise that Tolle outlines in his book. What was the first thing on Ravikant's mind? Bullshit. However, he did attempt it. And he had a fantastic feeling. The takeaway from this anecdote is that although certain things do not satisfy the criteria of scientific evidence, they can still be of assistance to you. The general rule of thumb to follow in this situation is as follows: if it works, use it; if it doesn't, look for another option. Putting this into practice is one component of the skill of happiness. The other is developing healthy patterns of behavior. This should have been obvious to you. Your mood will remain more steady if you limit the amount of sugar, caffeine, and alcohol you consume, for example. So I'm going to avoid social media. Then there's consistent exercise, which is a great example of a routine that is beneficial to both the body and the mind because it's something you do on a regular basis. If you can tame your monkey mind and form healthy routines, you'll be well on your way to discovering what brings you joy. Concluding remarks. The most important takeaway from these synopses is as follows. Both achieving financial success and contentment are skills. Both boil down to the importance of being able to make the right choices. You need to steer clear of making poor investments, whether you're talking about your time or your money. That means putting your faith in your instincts. If you can't decide, say no. Keep in mind that the returns on good investments can compound over time, leading to enormous gains. This holds true for financial resources in the same way that it does for one's reputation. Happiness, on the other hand, is a choice to be present in the here and now while simultaneously turning down the volume of your monkey mind. What would be the most effective way to carry that out? Meditation. Directions for taking action. Embrace the temporary discomfort. If there are two solutions to a problem that are roughly equivalent, you should select the one that will cause you more discomfort in the short term. Why? When it comes to solving the majority of problems, there are two ways. One will cause discomfort in the short term, while the other will cause discomfort in the long term. You should focus on the former, as opposed to the latter, but human brains have a tendency to place a higher value on whatever brings us happiness the quickest. Leaning into the pain helps us overcome this subconscious tendency and ultimately leads to a happiness that is more long-lasting. Consider, for instance, getting some exercise. It is possible that, in the here and now, it will feel like a laborious errand. However, the returns on this investment in one's health and happiness are enormous over the course of one's lifetime. We appreciate you watching. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video with the people you care about the most.